7 Sigma. Offgrid.
At around 1 p.m., a notification of a rescue on the 178 through the canyon showed up in Pulse Point. That soon changed to a notification of a wildfire. At 1:20, smoke could be seen coming from the canyon. Eyewitness Robbie Miller says he was driving up behind a long line of cars. When he told me a car in front of him went over the edge. On scene were fire vehicles from the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and Kern County. An incident report from Sage P has confirmed that a vehicle went over the edge of the canyon and caught on fire, resulting in a fatality. The fire is now known as the Borel Fire and has been mapped at 941 acres.
Hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. We actually was going to go up to the property this past week. However, we've had a large fire near our home, and so we were not able to go up to the land. A lot of people had to evacuate the area. We had to be on standby. We had a lot of concerns because the fires were extremely close to our land and to our property and to our home, and we just had to sit back and watch the news. Been trying to keep in contact with people who live up there to see if we can get updates as to how close the fires were to our property.
So one of my clients who knows that we have a homestead asked if the fire was close to our property. I had no idea what he was talking about, but when I stepped back outside and looked in the direction of the mountain ranges where our property was located, and I saw the ginormous clouds of smoke that spread for miles. And that's when I had my first oh shit moment. I grabbed my phone to see what was going on in the area, and I saw that the fire started on Highway 178, which is about 34 miles away from our property. But because there were so many mountain ranges between the fire and our property, it really didn't concern me at that point, which was actually rookie mistake number 52. But once I got home and started digging deeper, that's when things got real, really real.
When we originally heard that there was a fire up in the area, we didn't realize how fast and how quickly the fire had grown.
The fire had already been burning for 2 days and had tripled in size. And as the fire started moving towards our direction, I reached out to the neighbors up in the area, and I started watching YouTube channels of the local news up in that area. I logged into the online community groups, and that's when I found out that the town of Havilah was a total loss. In the community groups, that's when I found out about apps such as Watch Duty, Flight Radar, NASA Firms, and a bunch of others. And that's when I found out that our property was under evacuation watch.
This was the terrible scene of destruction overnight. The monstrous Borel wildfire crews are calling a perfect firestorm. The fire tripled in size, consuming everything in its path, even burning cars and trucks to ash.
We still planned on driving up to the property in the morning, but once we discovered that all the roads in and out were closed, and with no eyes on the ground, that's when the frustration for me began.
Hotshot crews are doing everything they can to tame the wildfire. More than 10 aircraft are conducting water drops, bulldozers are climbing steep terrain to dig fire breaks, and deputies are knocking on doors asking people to leave.
Luckily, my son reached out to one of his firefighter friends who just so happened to be working the fire, so he kept us up to speed on what was going on and actually became my eyes on the ground.
So we got news that they were evacuating the area, and
one of our neighbors started texting us updates while sending pics and videos of the area.
At this point, we're very concerned because the fire is growing, and it has actually crossed over to the other side of the mountains where we're located.
Once we received the Watch app notification that our zone was upgraded to evacuation order, which means leave now, that's when the negative thoughts started to creep in. We just bought this property 3 years ago, and we just purchased our tiny home a couple of months ago. Now that would completely suck if we lost everything this soon in the process. I will admit, it was a struggle to maintain positivity at that point. And once I got word that the fire was within 3 miles of our property, that's when I really became stressed out. The worst part for me was being forced to be on standby and not be able to do anything. And this was only day number 3.
Watch Duty was an app that we looked at for evacuation notifications, and Flight Radar, that actually gave us information on the aircrafts where they were dumping fire retardant and water. So my husband was on 3 apps, just really trying to keep abreast. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the news and trying to figure out where the fires are, how fast they're spreading, and how the area and the acreage that they're spreading into. So
on day 4, we got the news that the firefighters were able to hold one of the main northern lines, which kept the fire from getting any closer to our homestead, which was great. It gave us a few hours of relief, and we kind of started to settle down and be like, okay, we're going to get through this. But of course, thanks to the winds, the fires picked up on the west next to Breckenridge Mountain and Rankin Ranch, which is directly connected to the mountain range that our property sits on. Rankin Ranch has been there since the 1800s, and I was kind of counting on the political pull that the Rankin family had to make sure that every resource was made available to them, and it was. Firefighters were able to create a line which not only saved the Rankin Ranch, but ultimately our homestead, because if Rankin Ranch burned down, it was game over for us.
we had a lot of rain this past winter. It has caused a lot of overgrown grass, and then by the summertime all of that gets very, very dry because we don't get rain in it. So we'll have months of just dry weather. When we were clearing out the land, we put a lot of the brush and the trees and the limbs over to the side. That is next to our house right now, so we have to get on top of that and move that stuff out. Right now we are not prepared, but this has taught us a lesson. That will be our next project.
Best efforts, fire crews couldn't keep up. Nearly every building in Havilah burned, including the historic courthouse, listed as California's 100th landmark. Historic Havilah looking more like hell. A small town nearly wiped off the map, and with plenty of fuel left to burn, all eyes continue to watch the Borel Fire's reign of terror.
Now, I will say this was a needed wake-up call for me to prioritize the importance of fire abatement. You will not hear me complain anymore about cutting the grass, brush clearing, and removing down trees. Because one of the biggest mistakes I made so far, which was actually rookie mistake number 2, was that when we had the initial clearing of our living area and the driveway cut in, we had the contractor push all the trees, bushes, and brush into an area near one of our creeks, which is only about 100 feet from our home site, which now looking back was a huge mistake because I wasn't even thinking about fires at that time. Honestly, I was just gung-ho with getting the driveway and the home site cut in. But now I know, because those fire hazards have now moved to the top of my priority list. But hey, if you don't know, now you know. Building a homestead is trial by fire. Literally.
We do give our condolences to those who have lost family and friends and their homes. There are a lot of people who have lost their livelihoods. An entire city is wiped out, and we do send our thoughts and prayers out to them. Thank you to our subscribers, and thank you all for all your comments about the lines that were on the side of the house. We had no idea. We didn't even think about that, but we appreciate all the comments, and you help us learn, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
7 Sigma. Off-grid.